Okay, so to mix dough by hand, I've got 5½ cups of flour in a bowl, 1 teaspoon of salt. Mix that up. You don't really have to do this, but I like to do that. Make a little well in the middle. And pour in the yeast that's been proofed for about 7 or 8 minutes in warm water. And I'm going to add 1 3/4 cups. I've measured out in another measuring cup. I want to rinse the rest of that yeast out of the cup. So I'm using the 1 3/4 cups of extra water to do that. And pour it all in there. Now most recipes don't really take this next step, but I like to put a teaspoon of olive oil in just because I like to believe that it makes it a little smoother, a little more elastic. So now we're going to start mixing. So instead of a KitchenAid mixer with a dough hook, we're doing it with a bowl and a wooden spoon. So scrape along the edge and in the middle. What we're doing here is trying to get all the ingredients damp. We want to get them, we don't need to combine them perfectly. We just need to get most of everything from a dry stage to a wet stage. The flour and the salt. And so that looks pretty good. Scrape off the spoon a bit. And now I'm going to dump it out on the counter. And it looks pretty bad there, doesn't it? It doesn't look like it's ever going to be a pizza. And so we're going to take all these loose parts and we're going to start squeezing them together. And we're going to make a ball out of it. We're going to get all those loose little pieces of dough that are kind of flying off. And there. And it's already looking 100% better, and we've only been doing it about 30 seconds. So get all those pieces in. Yeah. And now we're going to start the slow process of kneading the dough for 10 minutes. Sometimes I only do about 8 minutes, but it really depends on how the dough is looking. And here we go. So instead of using a mixer with a dough hook, in just 2½ minutes I've mixed everything and I'm already starting to knead the dough. And I'm pushing with my heels, I'm using my body weight, I'm not really using my arms and my hands. I'm just pushing forward on it. And I'm making it so it's getting longer, and then I'll bring this ends back in and make it and just do that all over again. And if it gets a little sticky, just bring a little more flour there. So we're going to do this for 8 to 10 minutes, and over the course of this time the dough is going to get smoother and silkier. See, there's no pieces left anymore. And now I've magically fast forwarded 8 minutes and we're pretty close to being done. And the surface now is nice and smooth and silky. So I'm just going to get my original bowl here. And whoops, forgot, I'm going to do one extra thing. I like to put a little oil on my hands. That way I can coat the dough ball and the dough won't stick to the side as much. And just put a little plastic wrap on top. And now we are just going to let it rise for about 4 or 5 hours. And now 4 or 5 hours later, you've got totally risen dough, hopefully. And we're just going to grab a little bit of that dough. If you've got a scale, it's about 7 or 8 ounces worth of dough that I've taken out of there. And it's going to be really sticky. So get some flour. And I like to form it in the shape of a ball and use my heels of my hands to initially flatten it out. And now we start rolling it out. This is a marble rolling pin that is long, had the handles broken off, that I just am too lazy to buy a new one. I kind of like the way this one works. And so what we're going to do is, right now it's very elastic. It springs back very quickly. And the more you roll it, the less elastic it's going to be, and it's going to retain its shape a little bit more. So this whole process is going to be, it's only going to take 2 or 3 minutes to roll it out. But roll it all the way across the edges, because you don't want the edges to be thicker than the middle. You want uniform size all the way through. Flip it over, put a little flour on, keep it from sticking to the top, both the surface and the rolling pin. Don't press down, just kind of let it use its own weight. Now, if you've got a lighter rolling pin like made out of wood, you might need to press down a little bit, but this one is pretty heavy, so it's doing all the work. Now, when I first started rolling out pizzas, I was 14, making $20 a week at a pizza shop on the coast of Maine. And I think probably made about $5,000 in the course of a couple of summers. But you never really forget how to do it. It's easy to learn. Just keep rolling it out, making sure you have a uniform thickness. You're not pressing too hard. Now it's getting pretty close to the size. Now it's also going to shrink in the oven, so it's probably going to shrink about 20%. So when you put it on the pan, and it covers the pan very well, when you bake it, it's going to be a lot smaller, or significantly smaller. So knock off all the flour and position it on the pan, and there you go. We are ready for the oven.